Learn how to take photos and videos with a blurred background. I want to blur the background beautifully. Have you ever felt that way? You can now control the beautiful bokeh that's hard to achieve with a smartphone. In this article, even beginners will understand the settings for blurring the background. I have also explained this content on my blog, so if you would like to take a closer look, I have included the URL of the blog in the description, so please check it out. Just changing the f-stop can change the background of your photo so much. Among all the camera settings, the f-number aperture value is an important factor that greatly affects the level of background blur depth of field. Did you know that simply changing this number can completely change the impression of a photo? These photos were taken with different f-stops. You can see that the degree of blur in the background is different. f2.8. The background is blurred to make the subject stand out. f4.5. The shapes in the background are slightly visible, but the bokeh is still soft. f8. Background details become visible. In this way, changes in the f-stop are a major factor that affects not only the sense of bokeh but also the overall impression of the photograph. First, let's review the basics of f-numbers. When the f-number is small, the background becomes blurred. When the f-number is large, the background becomes clear. In other words, the key is to use a small f-number when you want to emphasize just the subject, and a larger f-number when you want to see the whole picture. How to easily blur the background by setting it to a mode. If you want to take photos with a softly blurred background, the first thing you should try is a mode aperture priority mode. In this mode, you decide the f-stop aperture, and the camera automatically adjusts the shutter speed and ISO, so I will explain using a mode. Set the dial to AV mode. Change the f-stop to freely adjust the impression of the background. The f-stop is an important setting that controls the degree of background blur. Here, we'll roughly review how different f-stops affect the impression of a photograph. If you reduce the f-number, the background will become blurred and the subject will stand out. If you increase the f-number, the background will become clearer and the whole image will become sharper. If you want to focus on the blur effect, the key is to first set the f-stop to a small value. Turn the dial on the front to adjust the bokeh effect. We recommend setting the ISO sensitivity to auto. How to easily adjust brightness. ISO sensitivity is an important setting that has a large impact on the brightness of a photograph. Set the ISO to automatic to get the right brightness. One thing to note, setting the ISO sensitivity to auto is convenient because it automatically adjusts the brightness. However, in dark scenes, the sensitivity may be too high and noise may occur. Therefore, we recommend setting an upper limit to the ISO sensitivity to prevent deterioration of image quality. If you are concerned about image quality, It is best to set the ISO upper limit to ISO 1600 to 3200. Select Menu, then Camera Icon 2, then ISO Speed Settings. Setzen Sie den ISO-Grenzwert auf 3200. Tap ISO and set it to Auto. Use exposure compensation to adjust brightness. The photo is a little dark or it's too white. In times like these, exposure compensation is useful. When using a mode or ISO auto, the camera automatically adjusts the brightness, but it doesn't always turn out to be the brightness you want. That's where exposure compensation comes in handy. Try using exposure compensation to adjust the brightness to what you feel is just right. Tap the exposure compensation screen to set the appropriate brightness. If you want to blur the background more, the lens you choose is the key. Have you ever felt like, I want to blur the background more to make the main subject stand out? The reality is that the kit lens, standard zoom lens, etc. that comes with your camera has a relatively large f-number, making it difficult to blur the background significantly. When you want to take a photo that makes the subject stand out softly, such as a portrait or product photography, you can dramatically change the sense of bokeh by using a prime lens with a small f-number, e.g. f1.8, etc. Summary. At first, you can create good bokeh with a kit lens if you use it in a creative way. But when you feel like you want to broaden the range of expression, the next step is to use a prime lens. Using background bokeh to your advantage can make your photos and videos much more impressive. Try putting it to use in your photography starting today. We also publish camera settings for different scenes, so please subscribe to our channel. See you next time.